Yeah, just trying to make it a hub where people come in for all types of stuff, even if it's not finance, because my goal is always to get the uninvolved spouse involved. So that's our vision, is to find the wife who doesn't know or the husband who doesn't know, get them engaged, get them to the point where they love coming to the office. So whether that's by having massage chairs in the lounge or Panera box lunches when we sit down and eat or whatever it's going to be, I want them to be like, no, I'll definitely go meet with Mike, because if the one spouse who does the money dies, they have to know, love, and trust us. So yeah. So we're trying to reach the other spouse. It's kind of like one of our sub mottos. Love on the other spouse. Right. And so we're working on all this much more modern, fun looking stuff. But again, just making sure that they know that when they walk in the door, they're engaged. They're not just another room with fluorescent lights and a meeting they're not going to understand or care about and a report that they'll never read, but something that actually matters to their life. Probably the three most important topics we cover oftentimes are taxes, income planning, and risk is a big one for a lot of people because the market's been so bad. Right. Yeah, I think risk is giving people concern, but also then like a fear of making the wrong decision because the market's where it is and how volatile it is. So it's not it's a time of uncertainty right now. It's such a Dave Ramsey answer. It's like, oh my gosh, yeah, don't invest anything into experience. Do it all about, fill the piggy bank. I'm like, gosh. Right. Right. And then you can die with more money than you've ever had. Yeah, and your grandkids win from the windfall, but you got no living inheritance with them while you're alive. So that'd be my take on that. So it did spark quite a bit of thought, which is good. I think you can cover both and maybe talk about both sides of it. Yes. Can we, when you said the idea about why you become a financial advisor or anything like that, so there's basically a big shift in our business recently is I've started telling very personal stories about like our life as a family. I tell the story of my son going through cysts on his brain and all those things in the womb. And that's actually my seminar open now. And so it's become this real kind of keystone part of our business. And also, but it just talks about having a plan for what if, and being educated and informed and still holding on to who you are as a person, and believing for certain things and living your life, but what happens when things go wrong, and having the right content, having the right information at your fingertips for a holistic plan. And the story itself, I mean, when I tell the story, I'm telling it to a room full of people, and I almost get emotional every time I tell it, and the room gets emotional. And it's very powerful. So actually, I just recorded it with Cameron when I was down there. But the idea of having it in this space is really important to me as well. Right, because we're talking about wealth is so much more than dollars and cents. Yeah. Everything I've been doing for the last 40 years is in your hands. Mm-hmm. A lot of sleepless nights. No, I'm just kidding. No, my wife and I talk about this. It's a challenging thing because every different area of life we carry certain amounts of stress. Whether it's parenting your kids or remembering to do your laundry or getting groceries before you realize you're out of groceries or balancing your budget or whatever it is. There's areas of amount of stress we carry. And one of the challenges we have in our industry is that yes, I'm responsible for my family, but I'm also responsible for my staff, and I'm also responsible for all of our clients' life savings. So to try to do it as an individual, to try and be like the oracle and like everybody come to me for wisdom and sage advice, that's not realistic. What I need in my life is I need a team of people who help me. And that's what we do. Like, I go to a different person to change the oil in my car from the person who cleans my teeth, right? Like I have different specialists. So, and I specifically go to a mechanic, not for collaboration or for advice, but for my car to run. And so I go to him, and I'm so grateful they don't come to the window and say, hey, there's 15 options of what we could do to fix this issue with your I'm assuming cars still have alternators. I don't know anything about cars, and this is really transparent. This is going to really bring some things out about me, but I don't do anything with my car. I'm so grateful to pay that bill when it happens, because the alternative is I fix it, and that means I'm walking. So the idea of, yes, exactly. So it's like I go to him as a specialist, and he doesn't come out to me and ask my opinion. He comes out and says, here's what was wrong, here's what we fixed, and here's the bill. And I say, sounds good, swipe the card, and we leave. And so that's what it is. So when you build a plan out, if I was doing it on my own, it'd be burdensome, and it'd be very scary, and it'd be overwhelming. So that's why we do everything with a team approach. Why I work with attorneys, I work with CPAs, and even inside our firm, we have a team of advisors, team of service specialists. So it's not a Mike Douglas show. Life Plan is an organization that's designed to help people, and helping people at the speed of their comfort, at the speed of their knowledge. And when you do it that way, and you say, let's go everything through the team approach, everybody carries the work, and many hands make light work. So that's the whole goal. Yes. Yeah. A village with a mechanic. Yes. Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it, because we talk about stress, and we talk about pressure, and there are so many studies out that talk about the benefits of pressure and stress on our lives. We always think of it as a negative, right? Like, stress is the worst. It makes my hair go gray too fast. It does all these things. I get wrinkles. Yeah, I get it. But also, pressure is the very thing that creates diamonds. It's the thing that it gives you a purpose. So pressure and stress without relief or without purpose, it's unenjoyable. It's like the credit card bill or the car payment or like all these things. Right. Exactly. But every beneficial thing in our life, for the most part, has come as a result of some form of labor, pressure, or stress. So if you enjoy your home, it generally, for most people, wasn't gifted to you. You earned it. And you went out and you got a job, and you worked that job until you had enough money to pay for that house. And then the reward of closing, despite the fact that you had the stress of making a down payment, despite the stress of getting inspections, and you're having these back and forth negotiations and multiple offers and all this stuff, there was pressure and stress. But on the back end, once you got to the other side, you have a home, and you have something that you can cherish and spend time with family and pass on. But it's the result of the pressure and stress. And so we always focus on the negativity, but the benefit of that is I have something I'm going towards. And the idea that work, if you're doing just a job that you hate, yeah, I get it, and it's a different thing. But once you find that place in life where you have a good pressure and stress, it actually adds value and adds life. And Joe Paterno, he's the great idea, the picture of it. You retire after 60 years, you lose your purpose, and you pass away shortly after. So for people to retire early, it sounds great, but if you don't have a repurposing, and that's why for young people, when you retire in your young 50s, we say it needs to be a refirement, not a retirement. You need to take your passion, purpose, and reposition it somewhere else. That you say, all right, well, now I'm going to get involved in community service, or I'm going to take on watching my kids and grandkids 2 days a week, or I'm going to get involved in a club or play pickleball is the big thing now. So whatever you're going to do, you have to repurpose the passion. Otherwise, it's that kind of thing. Like, there's an enjoyable point of vacation, but at some point I like to get back to a structure and a life, and that's what you need. Oh, yeah, no, especially, if you work for somewhere where you got on the line, like, if you're for Ford or GM or Chrysler or any of these places, even the state of Michigan, if you're somewhere where you jumped in early, 19, 20, 21, worked your way up through the ranks. You kind of went through Ford College where they kind of promoted you, and you without necessarily a degree, but they promoted you and you got your degree inside of there. And as a result, you're 30 years into a career and you're 52 because you started at 22 and you just hung tight. And we see that a lot, especially in Michigan. You have these people who got into this career at the big three and hung through. Now you're 30 years in and you're 52, 53 years old. So once you hit that magic 30 number and your pension bumps or all the different benefits hit your way, people are saying, should I keep on working? Well, now they're going through and cutting these jobs and trying to get the legacy costs out. And so as a result, you retire out it. And I have these quite a bit, people who have hit their 30-year mark in their young 50s, and now they retire, but they basically walk out before they're walked out, And if I can get the right buyout, I take it and I go find a purpose. And so that happens pretty commonly. And then the challenge is I retire. So what do I do with my 401k? Where do I get my income? I'm under 59 and a half. What rules do I have to play by? How do I get those things? Because once you turn 59 and a half, yeah, you just pull from your IRAs and everything's free and clear and you just live your best life. But until then, you need a strategy for income, because even though you're retired, you still need money, because without income, there's no such thing as retirement. You need a strategy for purpose and a strategy for schedule. You need something that's going to fire you up. But also you need to know the rules of early income in retirement. And they are out there. It's a very doable thing. Just have a strategy for it. Oh, yeah. I think through COVID and through a lot of the stuff that's happened the past few years, we've all really recalibrated to think about what actually matters and what doesn't. Whether it's the ability to go to restaurants or the ability to spend time with family, or you lost loved ones and now you hold your babies closer, or, the different ththings that have happened, with all the education training we do. I spend a lot of times normally in restaurants and college campuses teaching. And so when for, 10 months straight, we couldn't do that, I was home eating dinner all the time with my family. And it was great. I will say after probably 9 or 10 months, I think Kimberly was like, hey, why don't you go teach some people something? Shouldn't you be at work? Yeah, no, it was good. But, in that, we just recalibrated so much. And as we sit down and talk about really finances over your life, money is not the end game. It's the conduit to the end game. So making sure that we're just not, kind of the joke about we're working for the weekend. Well, we're not saving for our deathbed. We're saving for our life. And that's the whole goal, is to save it, spend it, live it, and pass it on appropriately. I played tennis in college, a little bit of football, and a little bit of lacrosse, but mostly tennis was my big sport. Yeah, to different degrees. My daughter, I signed her up for flag football right when she hit kindergarten, because I'm like, everybody's played football. We got after it. And it was right after COVID. So I was like, everybody's getting out and going to play sports. And I signed her up without asking. And that was a mistake. And so 3 weeks into the season, I'm coaching a kindergarten and first grade team. Now I have sons in all these higher competitive levels. And they asked me if I would coach this kindergarten team. And I was like, yeah, we can do that. And so I did it, and we signed up, and 3 weeks in, my daughter says, I hate this, can I quit? And I said, no, if I'm stuck coaching kindergartners, you're stuck playing kindergarten football. So, and I said, we don't quit things we start, but we don't have to do it again. That's kind of our rule. So we finished out the season, and she said, don't ever sign me up for sports again. I said, okay, we'll see what happens. So now she's in ballet. Still a different kind of sport. Very athletic, very challenging thing, but it's just different. Now you're competing against yourself more so. But she loves that. Now she's talking about getting basketball, but yeah, we're deep into it. Correct. Well, there's the financial answer, and then there's the real life person answer. So the financial answer is anything in life that is considered discretionary spending, we just need to be intentional about when we do or don't do it. You can't just throw money at everything because it's fun. There are things we should, especially as we look at what life may look like in coming years. There are these waves and cycles to the market and to our economy. And if we're going into recessionary periods, there needs to be some intentional decisions on pulling back on some things. And you look at the cost of going to a baseball game, it's no different than a lot of other things. There are times we pull back to save on money because the experience isn't. Now, my dad and I have loved sports my whole life. And I talked to him, hey, Dad, why don't we go? He's a huge Indianapolis Colts fan. He grew up on the East Coast back when they were the Baltimore Colts. Then literally right about as they moved to Indianapolis, the military moved us to Indianapolis. And so we followed him there. And then my dad is still a huge Colts fan. And if I said to him today, Dad, let's go down, let's go get seats and go watch a Colts game in the stadium, he'd say, why the heck would we do that when I got a big TV and great seats right at home? And I can't fault that, because you save a ton of money. You may get a better view of a lot of the game, because there's oftentimes when I'm at a game and I go, man, I'd love instant replay right now. So there's a lot of value there. And so I think you can make a great case of there are areas of our life where we just need to evaluate what we're doing our discretionary spending on, because you can pull back and save a lot of ways and create down the road wealth. And, to use that phrase, sometimes you have to live like no one else so you can live like no one else. You have to save money so you can down the road have money. And don't burn through it just because you have it. That's the financial answer. Now, there is also this life element of, I don't want to save every penny I've ever earned all of my life just to die with a bunch of money. No, we want to have these opportunities because there are so many things that our kids and grandkids need to hear about. And I remember going to see a doubleheader baseball game in 1993 with my grandfather and some uncles and cousins. And we drove from Milton, Delaware up to Philadelphia, and we watched a doubleheader. And this is 93 when Tony Gwynn was trying to make his run at hitting 400. And we watched him raise his batting average by 8 points that day because he went 9 for 9 in 2 games. Crazy. It was an insane day. And that's a memory. I was 10 years old, and I'll remember that probably the rest of my life because it was such a powerful memory. I remember when Michael Jordan came the Bulls played the Nets at the Breslin Center in East Lansing in an exhibition game. And my dad took me, and it was a crazy game. I remember watching Michael Jordan, the only time I've ever seen him live in person, and it was a memorable event. I don't know what it cost, but I think my dad would have paid whatever to get me to that game pretty much. So there are these experiences we get to take on as a family and things where you can get your kids to sit and watch a sporting event with no commercials, no interruptions. We're just here together as a family doing this thing. There is power in those times spent. You can never get them back. Once your kids are out of the house, then you have to try and invest in your grandkids. Your kids are living their own life. So to take this time and live this life, so the money I've saved benefits us together, not just I die and you get a pot of gold. It is a living inheritance. It's not money for the future. It's money that I've saved, and I'm going to save. And through our lives, we do save to live inside the money. We're going to take this money and do stuff with it. It's not so I die and someone else wins. This is stuff we should be doing and passing on these times and investing in our families. It boils down to what matters. There are things in life that happen that change your perspective. The first time when you get married, it changes. When you get married, it changes your perspective. Then the first time you have a kid, it changes your perspective. When you buy a home, it changes your perspective. If you transition jobs, if you start a company, whenever you hit these certain pillars in life, your perspective changes. I always joke, it's like I used to be a real tough guy, and then I had a daughter, and now I cry at everything, I don't understand what it is, but you listen to the wrong song about, I'm going to miss her. And there's this song out there called Cinderella about a dad dancing with his daughter as a kid, then before prom, and then in her wedding. And I'm just, why am I not tough anymore? I don't know. I don't know what happened, but that's the reality. So when we hit these pillars of life, we just recalibrate and say, and then COVID did that. It recalibrated to say, what am I doing this all for? Should I work that week or should I take the week of vacation? Well, if I have kids in the house, I want to take that vacation if we can afford it because they're going to be gone someday. And then, I can work like a dog when the kids are out of the house and, we can get really rich then. But in the meantime, let's live this life together. Well, it depends on where they're coming from. If they came from an engineering or structured background, I always joke and say the first thing you do is you grow a beard, you take a month off, and then you recalibrate because it's all the things you've never been allowed to do. But now that you've settled in, there has to be something else. Actually, there was just a study that came out that said businesses are hiring retirees more and more because they can get a good solid 5-10 years out of them at a hard work, and they get to re-innovate themselves. You're an engineer and you say that was great, but now I want to go be a builder, or I want to go work at a Home Depot, or whatever it is that keeps you busy. You find your passion and find a way to make money off of it at a schedule. And then if you want to snowbird, you still snowbird, but you go find a job that keeps you passionate about what you want to do. So the mental aspect is just really comes down to who you are and what gives you life. And then finding the way that what gives you life, turn that into something that's consistent and reproducible and gives you a schedule.